Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Hey there. Are you hearing me? I hope so. Welcome back. I feel a little discombobulated because first of all, I'm not hearing myself like I normally do because I've got a headset on, which I haven't had since I was in radio. And it's got a little microphone attached to it, so I'm hands-free, and the fix happened. It took longer than we thought it would, but I am so thrilled to be back, and I have so many people to thank. Folks at the paper, City Paper, were amazing and insisted that it be done right, and that when we came back, we would know that we were not going to be embarrassed by technical glitches. And if you're hearing me now, I guess we've done that. Turns out, and I never really understood this because I don't understand anything having to do with technology, that this is not a podcast. It's not a normal a podcast is essentially recorded and then put out. This is live, and because we take phone calls, that's the wrinkle. So that so many people who would say to me, everybody can do a podcast. What's the problem with you guys? Everybody's doing a podcast, but it's not a podcast because they don't take calls. So it was wanting you to be part of the show that took so long. We finally found somebody. God bless him, some wondrous nerd who said, I can fix this. I know how it works. I don't even know the guy's name, but thank you. I want to thank him. I want to thank Lisa and Zach and Kevin back at the station. And mostly I want to thank you. I was blown away by how many of you patiently or not, it's like when you're on hold, we thank you for your patience. We should be with you in just a moment. And every time I hear that, I think, I'm not patient. Don't thank me for my patience. I'm impatient. So I'm thanking you for your patience, even if you were impatient. And I'm blown away by the fact that some of you, including one, I'm afraid to say your name on the air for fear you wouldn't want me to. A number of people actually sent money into City Paper. And one person in particular sent a whole big hunk of money. Unsolicited, just sent in the money and said, here, fix it. Just blows me away. So if not patient, certainly generous. Anyway, all right, enough of all of that. I'm still getting used to this contraption. I want to fiddle with the volume a little bit here. Okay. So I'm not sure where to start. I don't even know how long I've been gone. I feel a little like Lazarus. In my career, there have been so many of these times when I've not had the opportunity to talk, and then somehow I'm back again. So Lazarus. All right, the one thing I have to tell you, I know, I mean, just keeping up with what's going on, is daunting. And I must admit, I allowed myself during this hiatus to sort of tune out, sometimes for 2 or 3 days in a row. And believe me, it is like watching some god-awful soap opera. You can jump back in and catch up, God, if you want to, very quickly. And I have, I think, a greater appreciation of why people say, I just can't. I haven't read a paper. I don't watch the news. I can't. And I understand that. But on another level, I feel like it is not civically responsible, because when citizens of a struggling democracy, which is what we've got now, a threatened democracy, opt out, decide that it's too messy, too awful, too upsetting to pay attention, then they become part of the problem. Because people who don't pay attention are sitting ducks for demagogues, for being fed and swallowing misinformation and disinformation. And heaven knows we've had a real tutorial in the past 4 years about how easily done that spreading of disinformation is, and the willingness with which people gobble it up. So I'm glad to be back. Of all the stories that were, I guess, the big stories in my absence, the one that affected me the most, not because it was something I didn't know, but just because for just this little bit, our media actually paid attention to it. And it's a subject that boils my blood, and it has to do with the rich. And by the rich, I mean the really rich. These handful of people who are holding on to so much more than their share of the pie. And the that report, incredible journalism that came out via some leaks out of the Internal Revenue Service, showing that these extremely wealthy billionaires many times over don't pay taxes. Be nice, huh? No, the little people pay taxes. And I think maybe one of the most telling things was in looking at the billionaire I most despise for what he represents, for what he stands for, Jeff Bezos. He paid zilch in federal income taxes, even as his company's Amazon stock price doubled. And as he became richer and richer and richer, the tax laws, as written, allowed him to, on paper, appear to be a loser. He'd lost money, when in fact his wealth had swelled to obscene proportions. But on paper, he could report losses. He could pay not a cent in income tax. And this is the thing that just made me go crazy. He actually received a tax credit of $4,000 for his children. I remember when I first lost a job in this business, it's when WTAE radio decided to do sports. And it was the first time in my life I'd been unemployed. And I was told to, file for unemployment. And I couldn't, because I was okay. And I always thought of those programs as being for people who, if you lose a job, you're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your ability to pay your rent. You're not going to be able to feed your children. And none of those things applied to me. I had reserves. I was fine. And I said, it seems to me that program should be for those who need it. Why should I pull money out of that? And people would say to me, well, you paid in. Well, I don't care. Conservatives are always talking about makers and takers, and they put the poor in the taker category because they take things like child credits. They take things like unemployment insurance. And they're never acknowledged as having produced, as workers, the economy that's kept it running. Their labor has kept it running while they're paid crap wages. Our system is so corrupted. It has got to be fixed. There is nothing that Bezos and Musk and Bloomberg and Buffett and all of these others whose taxes we now have seen, there's nothing they did illegal. And there's the crime. The tax code is a crime. It is written to allow this and to put the burden of keeping our country running on the backs of the little people. While the billionaires just keep piling on more and more wealth and paying nowhere near their fair share. Why isn't this one of the major issues? Do you know how much money, if they paid what you pay, a percentage of what you pay? Do you know the money that would come into the Treasury? And do you know what we could do with that money? My God, we could do things like have a real system that allowed all of us to have good health care and insurance. We could have universal child care. We could help struggling people more. We could rebuild our infrastructure, which is crumbling around us. But our political class, wined and dined by the lobbyists for the rich, just can't bring themselves to do it. You know, when the last administration was on its way out, there was just 2 weeks left before Biden would be sworn in. And someone in Trump's Treasury Department, using every second he could to continue to help the rich get richer, made a set of rules, new rules for the tax code. Yes, of course, these rules were not to make it more equitable. The rules were to allow the rich to get richer. In fact, this Treasury, highly placed Treasury person in Trump's Treasury, had been, before Trump put him in the Treasury Department, had been a person who made lots of money helping people with even more money avoid paying their fair share. So this was this guy's area of expertise. And what he did was promulgate a new rule that ensured that people who ran private equity companies could avoid paying hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. These rules were signed off on and became the rules one day before the insurrectionists stormed the U.S. Capitol. Just another little fix for the rich that happened that we were obviously too distracted to notice. And you can't sick the Internal Revenue Service on any of these rich people because the IRS doesn't have anywhere near the capacity in terms of how many lawyers it has on its staff, lawyers who actually can unravel these minute arrangements that the rich create to make their refusal to pay their fair share into the common pot. I forgot where that sentence started. No, you know who the IRS goes gunning for? They don't go gunning for these guys because they can't beat them. And the tax code is set up for that purpose too. And the IRS has been starved by the same Congress that creates these laws. So the fix is in. The fix is in. The IRS does not bother to go after these guys. If you earn $24,000 a year, you are the one they go after. They go after the little people who don't have a million lawyers. They go after the little people. They terrorize them and they shake them down for just a little bit more. I don't understand why we are not more enraged by this, why we don't rise up and say enough, why we don't stop paying our taxes until they pay theirs. The private equity industry that got this little gift the day before the insurrection, they employ over 200 lobbyists who have doled out nearly $600 million to senators and congressmen in the last decade. And that is why they're sitting pretty. And the vast majority of America is struggling. It is a system so corrupted and so unfair that to be allowed to continue, this has to be a major issue. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren cannot be the only voices, cannot be the only ones who say this should be the priority. Ezra Klein had a really good piece in the New York Times the other day, and he just flat out said it. You know how this wonderful American economy runs? It runs on poverty. Yeah. It runs on poverty, or at least the threat of poverty. And it runs on poverty because we are complicit in this system. You are. I am. Not as much as you are, though. You cannot go to Amazon. Why do we do what we do? Why do we buy at Amazon and Walmart, all these places that have helped to create this incredible wealth gap, an economy where the jobs are crap? We have a system here that requires that, I don't know if it's a majority, but a whole hunk of American workers have to work their tails off for jobs that can't support them. We have an economy that runs because of the desperation of low-wage workers. And our complicity is that our desire for speedy delivery, for the cheapest possible goods, for free speedy delivery, for dinners and lunches brought to our doors. All of that runs on the backs of poor workers. And this is what Klein says is the conversation this country doesn't want to have. You think we don't want to talk about racism. We don't want to talk about any of the things we need to talk about. And here's another one. When we talk about the poor in this country, they're a problem. That's what they are. But we never admit that the fact that we allow such poverty in our country is a choice. It's a policy choice that we make over and over again, generation after generation. Yeah, it's why America, of all the so-called civilized, industrialized nations, doesn't have universal health care, doesn't have universal child care, doesn't have universal public education all the way through. Those are our choices, because we think that giving these things to these poor, the great unwashed, is enabling them to be lazy. That's what people's heads are. What? They work harder than anybody does for nothing, for next to nothing. And we don't acknowledge that we benefit from this system. Every time you click on that Amazon thing and you buy one more thing from Amazon and you order the poor people that are doing these jobs, we're holding that system up. We're saying we want convenience, we want speed, we want quality at the lowest possible price you can. And so, of course, we also are the reason that child labor in countries other than our own proliferates. Because you got to have cheap labor if you want to have cheap products. It's our values. These are Americans' values. And Klein says this, he's right. Generally speaking, if we want something in America, we find the money to pay for it. I'm talking about our government now, right? We find the money to go to war all the time. We find the money to pad the Pentagon's budget. We spend trillions on that without batting an eye. But how about using that money to help the poor who are growing in number? No, it just ain't one of our priorities and never has been. Listen to, this is a right-wing outfit, The Federalist. It freaked out when they heard that Chipotle was raising its prices by 4% so it could pay its workers more. And here's what the Federalist said. Restaurants have had to bribe current and prospective workers with fatter paychecks to lure them off their backsides. That is the way Republicans think of the people who make their cushy existences possible. Which brings me to the good Bezos. And that'd be his ex-wife, because she's now given a whole bunch more money away. And the interesting thing about it, I'm looking for this, want to get the numbers right. She fully intends, she really wants to rid herself of all of her ex-husband's ill-gotten gains. And even though she's been giving away millions and millions and billions, actually, forget the millions, she keeps getting richer. Since she has given all this money away in the last, just 2 years, I believe, she just keeps getting richer. I can't find the exact numbers. It's mind-blowing. And it's because the money she gets, because she's a rich person, isn't taxed. It's not taxed. So the wealth just keeps piling up and piling up. It's not looked at as income like, us kind of people with our piddling little paychecks get. No. So I knew I had too much garbage here to ever find what I want. I'm sorry. Here it is. Here it is, under the Kleenex. It says here, this is today's business section of the Times, thanks to the soaring value of Amazon stock, which she got when she divorced him, she is accumulating wealth faster than she can give it away. And even though she has given away more than $8 billion in the last 11 months, she's given away $8 billion in 11 months. She's richer than ever. The money just won't stop. It just keeps doubling and tripling and quadrupling. Amazing. And I know that at least in this latest money she gave, I guess almost $3 billion, she announced yesterday. One of those who is getting some of that money is in Pittsburgh. It's called the Advancing Black Arts in Pittsburgh Initiative. And that's some kind of program of the Pittsburgh Foundation and Heinz Endowments. So she's giving that money to the specific initiative of the foundations. Now, foundations, when they give money, almost always have strings attached to it. Here's what we're giving this to you for. She doesn't do that. And that makes her different than, she's different already than these ultra rich in the way she gives, in how much she gives. And she has said that she does not want to micromanage the money because, in her words, she says, I believe that those with experience on the front lines of challenges know best how to put the money to good use. And so we encourage them to spend it however they choose. And she also said that it would be a whole heck of a lot better if all this money were not concentrated in a small number of hands. Yeah. Well, that brings us back to the tax code. So, God bless her, Mackenzie Scott. At least she's trying. She's trying mightily to do the right thing. Bree writes, the answer to your question, Lynn, what question? At least the one provided by neo-Marxists, is consumerism and media. Well, people wanting stuff and using credit to buy it. The media telling people what they want, what they gotta want, what they need that they didn't even know existed. And the media also entertains us into oblivion. I happen to be speaking to a professor of media this last weekend. And he told me that when he shows students newscasts, like local newscasts and ask them, is that new? They cannot tell. They cannot tell the difference between news and entertainment. And most adults cannot. It's been totally blurred. So our desire for stuff and for entertainment is just destroying us. I'm not sure we're worth saving. I mean it. Hang on, Zach. I've got callers. Why didn't I see that? I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me. Go ahead, please.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hey, the regular people like us, and even people who are worse off than us, are responsible for the ultra rich getting all these perks and tax breaks and feeling and getting our sympathies, believe it or not. I mean, because there has been such a really good job at brainwashing going on for such a long time. I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal the other day. This guy wrote this opinion article, and he told how all these government dole outs because of the coronavirus and the way everything's set up, that if you got two working people in a household, they can get up over $100,000 a year in dole outs.
Oh, for God's sake. Oh, for God's sake.
Show me that math. I can't imagine what the loopholes you would have to go through to get $100,000 of free money. Come on. And people are buying into this shit.
If you want to know who the takers are, it's not the poor. It's obviously the rich. They get everything. They don't have to pay. They leverage their wealth, which they pay no taxes on, to buy anything they want. And what they have done is bought our Congress. They bought our, the people who are supposed to be representing us. It's just unbelievable. It really is.
I think there's also a race component to this, and you may have brought this up in the past.
I did.
Our public likes getting, furnished with good government things like, playgrounds, swimming pools, education, public education. We all like it when we used to like it when our government provided that. But I think somebody really, really smart and evil, and I don't like using that word because it just means they're bad people, has figured out the way to piss white people off who really don't want black people to get the same.
That's right.
The same.
So they're willing to cut. They're willing to cut their noses off to spite their face. So white people have said, no, we don't want better schools. We don't want that. They don't realize that's what they're saying, but they're against all these programs because they know black people will get it too.
Absolutely.
So their racism keeps them in poverty. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It absolutely. And you can go into any, and this is, I'll probably get offensive. You can go into any white trailer park and you will find those people who are like that. Honestly,
yeah,
they're barely making it, and damn it, if they're going to let somebody that people of a different color have something that they feel that they don't deserve. Now I deserve it, but they don't deserve it for some strange reason.
Yeah.
And when it comes to our elected officials, have you ever seen that movie? It was a Jon Stewart movie called Irresistible.
No, I don't think.
It takes place in a small Wisconsin town where there's a mayor race, and somehow Steve Carell plays.
Yes, I have seen it. Yes.
Yeah, and basically, I mean, it was a really good point about how we just ignore, and Democrats are probably this is how they've lost their touch with
they've lost the working class. That's right. Yeah. Because and I'll tell you where that really started in earnest. Bill Clinton.
Why do you say Bill Clinton?
Because he's the one who pulled Democrats back and made them essentially, he pulled us back so that we weren't doing the kinds of things that Democrats traditionally did. I think if you start looking at Bill Clinton's presidency, you'll see a lot of stuff where he served the capitalists more than the people, more than a lot of Democratic presidents had done. I think. I'm sorry. I think so. I have started to, it just in general, as I think about him, I think history will be not kind to him.
But was that unavoidable though?
I don't know if it was unavoidable. It's what we chose. It's what we chose. This, remember the Sister Souljah moment where he attacked a black woman? You remember that? He did a lot of stuff signaling to certain people. And I mean, maybe he knew how to do this because he was Southern. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I guess my question just to that is, and I'm not defending that at all, but could he have gotten elected if he didn't do that?
I don't know.
Is this country prepared to elect? I don't know if we can ever. I think we've lost the middle of the country so much that we can't have a left wing. I don't know if we could ever have a left wing president again. Can we?
Well, we can never have a president again if certain parties don't agree that the election was
oh, good God, that's a whole
to their liking. Listen. I don't know if in fact the Republicans take back the House and God forbid even the Senate. The 2024 election had better go to a Republican, or they'll make sure it does. I'm not kidding you. I mean, there's so much more at stake here. I think we're going down. I really do. Hey, I got to go because I think there's another call.
I hate to say it, but I agree with you and have you sound in a good voice. So I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. No, I hate to be so negative, but guys, is there a caller there? Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing? Hey, Lynn, I know what you mean on Clinton. Even Carter, I voted for him twice, and he really wasn't for unions. Carter wasn't as president. And I mean, some things did all right, but I voted for him twice because I'll take any Democrat over any Republic any day of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be the worst Democrat, and I'll still vote for him. I just know what the Republicans are about. But what I wanted to say is these right-wing nuts that they're Christianity and all that, and they're nuts. They always forget I don't even know the quote, but in the Bible it says about the worker and he's worth his keep or something like that. They forget that stuff. They'll overlook stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying it right. I can't remember how it's told in there, but stuff like that. And another thing on that Capitol thing, Joy Reid was on last night, and she said something pretty good. That one that I think Ron Johnson and there's another guy.
Yeah.
That they were in single file and they were just tourists and all this. And she said, well, if they were tourists, why did Republicans run? Why didn't they greet them at the door if they were tourists? I mean, it was really good. It's like, or where's the pictures of them walking with them and showing them in the Capitol? I mean, it just drives you nuts. And one other thing, West Virginia is one of the poorest states, and they vote for Republicans every friggin' time. What the hell's in their brains?
Well, because it all goes together, doesn't it? It goes together. It all works. And my God, don't talk about West Virginia, because then you'll get me into Joe Manchin, and I can't. I just can't.
That's another problem there.
I can't. Yeah. Okay. Hey, thank you for the call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. I have to tell you, I feel a little, I'm not really sharp today, and I'm going to blame it on, I'm going to blame it on two things. This new headset I'm wearing, which it makes me feel, I don't know, my voice just, I feel like I'm not hearing myself, which I think I should do, and I hope there's a way that we can do that. And also, because I had anesthesia yesterday, and I was like dopey all through yesterday into the evening, and I'm thinking I'm still a little not quite right. So I feel slow, and I had hoped for a more brilliant comeback, but I'm just not quite there. Yeah. A few little things just on the periphery of some of the stuff we've been talking about. I just want to get it in. There's a novelist, perhaps you've heard of, Dave Eggers. Frankly, I've never read a thing he's written. But Dave Eggers has a new novel coming out, and I noted that he is keeping Amazon from selling the hardcover. He's only allowing independent bookstores to have the hardcover. I assure you, this is very much sort of, it ain't going to hurt Amazon. It is just a statement he's making. Because the reality is the audio version, the paperback, the ebook, those will be through Amazon. And it turns out he couldn't really keep Amazon out. This is what happens when you have monopolies. And what's odd is that the book itself is about the power of monopolies to dictate what we think we want. And it turns out that because of deals that publishers have with their distributors and the way the system works now, they are literally prevented from circumventing Amazon. In other words, there are deals that they have to honor. Amazon owns it. And if you had the stomach to read this like 7-page piece in yesterday's New York Times that just looked inside one Amazon facility, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I'm begging you guys to stop using Amazon as much as you can. When you see something, you're online, you're looking for something that you need, and always the first thing that comes up is Amazon, and it's free delivery, and it's a little cheaper. Don't do it. Spend a little bit more, please. And deny Bezos your money as much as you can. On garbage day when I'm out walking the dog, man, I see so many of those damn Amazon boxes stuck out. It's like we've sold our souls for cheap and fast. And there are consequences. I want to acknowledge that something good happened in the last few weeks. Remember the Keystone Pipeline? I mean, that thing has been a contentious threat. People have protested and been jailed, and all hell's broken loose. This is the pipeline that this Canadian energy company wanted to drop down from northern Alberta all the way through the United States to refineries on the Gulf Coast of Texas, so they could transport their tar sands oil, the dirtiest, most loathsome fossil fuel. Those are the words of Charlie Pierce, whose reporting I always value. And governments got right on this. They were helping it. This thing was on until it wasn't. And the reality is, it's dead. Biden helped kill it. And what finally happened is that the company itself threw in the towel. They said, all right, we're done. We're finished. And you know what? What Pierce talks about is what a rare victory this was. And it took a coalition of people who otherwise are not on the same. It took farmers, right-wingers farmers, right? Working with environmentalists, working with indigenous nations, ranchers. None of them wanted it, and they're not normally on the same page, but boy, they found common ground, and look what happened. They killed it. That's good news. Oh, I just want to share this with you too. I don't know if any of you have watched I think it's a Netflix show, Mayor of Easttown, which is set in Pennsylvania and stars Kate Winslet and is really very good. And I was reading a piece about it, and it's set, closer to in the eastern half, closer to Philly. And in this piece, they talked about how Philly is such a tough town, even though it has this misnomer, the city of brotherly love, because, this is a town that throws snowballs at Santa Claus and batteries and beer at their own players. And they tell a story that I vaguely remember, but I thought it was so funny that I want to remind you, because you might. It drops back to 2015. There was some Canadian scientists, some researchers who had created a robot, and it was about the size of like an 8-year-old child, and it looked like it had a big smile on its face. It was not one of those scary looking God let me be dead before these things become ubiquitous robot. It had a big smiley face, and it had on little yellow, like rain boots. And it was a hitchhiking robot. So they just put this thing, they first took it over to Europe. And damn if that robot, the hitchhiking robot, didn't make its way around Europe. People picking it up, people then letting it out, people. And it was amazing, apparently. Then they took it up and back up to Canada and thought it'd be neat if it went down the east coast of the United States. And so they dropped it there. And the little hitchhiking robot with the big smile and the yellow boots starts down the east coast of the, wonderful United States of America. And it was able to have small talk with, somebody would pick it up, and then the robot could talk to him and tell him what he was up to and let him out at certain places. Seems all very odd, but it worked. And then it disappeared. And you know where it was found finally? It was found in Philadelphia, where it had been torn limb from limb and left in an alley with its little yellow boots. And now its strange smile ripped apart and destroyed. Welcome to the city of brotherly love. God almighty. I vaguely remember reading about that, but good heavens. And my sense is Philadelphians are proud of this kind of, I think they're proud of this. I'm sitting here and I'm looking out on my backyard and I'm seeing these adorable chipmunks. They're running all over Kingdom Come today. They're so busy. And I have to tell you, I wish I could tell one from the other. They all look alike to me. That chipmunk looks like that chipmunk. I can't tell the difference. Maybe if I could get up close, I could. But the reason I was wondering is because yesterday, after I'd come back from this procedure where I'd been anesthetized, and I was groggy as hell, and I just sort of immediately just went and took to my bed. And it was then out of the corner of my eye that I saw it. A chipmunk in my house. A chipmunk running through my bedroom. My dog, who's lying on the bed with me, doesn't even notice. I jumped up and did what any woman in her right mind, upon seeing a wild animal running through her house, would do. I started screaming. And I ran after the chipmunk. And the dog came with me, and he finally saw it. So he goes running after. And then I'm screaming at the dog, and I'm screaming at the chipmunk, and I'm screaming in general. And I'm half out of my mind because I still, they tell you, you cannot drive, you cannot make any serious decisions. But I'm chasing a chipmunk around my house. And I threw open all the doors. And I got the dog under control, who lost interest very quickly. He's not into chipmunks. I don't know why. And so I spent all day yesterday trying to find this damn chipmunk and usher him out the door. Once the poor guy made a run for it. And the dog intercepted him and chased him back into the living room. So I can tell you, I thought, just leave the doors open, and maybe the poor little guy will have the courage to come out of hiding and get back out. Well, I have to tell you, I don't know if he did, which is why I'm looking. I never saw him leave. I have not seen him in the house or her. I don't know. As I said, they all look the same. Maybe that cute little guy that was just cavorting on the ledge over there is the same one. I don't know. I hope to hell. So I spent a lot of last night still sort of in a stupor, swatting flies, because having left all the doors open so the critter could get out, I let a bunch of other critters in. And it occurred to me, by keeping the door open and hoping he'll go out, what's to prevent some of his buddies from coming in? You could end up with squirrels in here. It's a very stressful day. Anyway, I'm hoping the chipmunks won. Okay, guys. I was going to tell you a bunch of other miserable things, but let's end there because it's always good to laugh at somebody else's expense. Okay? So we'll be back tomorrow, and then we should be clear sailing, I hope, for some time. Okay. Again, my great appreciation to those of you who hung in there, and I'll try to be a little less discombobulated tomorrow. I'm blaming chipmunks. I'm blaming anesthesia. I'm blaming the headphones. Okay, those are my 3 excuses. And enjoy this glorious day. I'm going to go out and cavort around like the chipmunks. It's just too beautiful. Okay? Hope to talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.